Here is where the strongest winds are, and there could be some blustery showers too. And we do have a wind warning in force through Thursday night into Friday lunchtime. Gusts in excess of 75 miles per hour are possible across Western Isles on Friday morning. And we'll see some heavy pulses of rain across parts of Wales into southeastern areas. That rain could linger into the weekend. There is some uncertainty on that, but wherever you are, it is expected to get colder once again throughout the weekend. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd room.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Drivers on the M74 southbound after junction 14 are experiencing restrictions due to a road traffic incident. Meanwhile, in Rochdale on the M62 westbound, there's congestion between junction 20 and junction 18, causing delays of approximately 20 minutes. In Leicestershire, on the M1 southbound, a road collision on the exit slip at junction 23 has led to one-lane closure. And on the trains, there are notable disruptions between Bournemouth and Brockenhurst on cross-country services, and on the Elizabeth line between London Paddington and Whitechapel. Stay aware of these disruptions to plan ahead. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's budget day. We'll discuss it with you, we'll explain it to you. I will tell you why I think it will lead to an even bigger exodus of people. We'll also talk about the fury of farmers in central London today. I'll be joined by Liam Halligan, someone who talks economics in a form of language we can all actually understand. But before all of that, let's get the news with Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. Just after 7 o'clock, well, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has delivered her budget today after key details were leaked early in an unprecedented pre-budget blunder. The Office for Budget Responsibility accidentally published its forecasts 40 minutes before the Chancellor stood up in the Commons, prompting an immediate apology and a formal investigation. The plans themselves, well, they are sweeping. Income tax and national insurance thresholds frozen until 2031. New annual charges on homes worth over £2 million and £5 million. A mileage duty for electric vehicles, pension tax changes above £2,000 and a cap on cash ISAs from 2027. Rachel Reeves also confirmed the two-child benefit cap will be scrapped from next year and warned that growth forecasts have been downgraded. But the political reaction was instant and certainly fierce. Here's Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch reacting to that OBR leak.
Nobody wants this budget, Mr. Speaker. With resignations, hostile briefings and leaks galore, even just in the last 10 minutes, an unprecedented leak of the OBR analysis. Mr. Speaker, these leaks have been so serious that even the former chief economist of the Bank of England has said, and I quote, that Labour's fiscal fandango is the single biggest reason why growth has flatlined. Does the Prime Minister agree with Andy Haldane, and does he have an explanation for this complete shambles?
Well, in her response, Rachel Reeves said the publication was deeply disappointing and said the OBR had made a serious error.
This is deeply disappointing and a serious error on their part. The Office for Budget Responsibility have already made a statement taking full responsibility for their breach. Our net financial debt will be lower at the end of the forecast than it is today, and I will more than double the headroom against our stability rule to £21.7 billion. These are my choices, not austerity, not borrowing, not turning a blind eye to unfairness. My choices are a budget for fair taxes, strong public services and a stable economy.
A stark warning from the budget watchdog tonight. The asylum system could face £1 billion overspend by 2028. Ministers had promised to end the use of hotels and cut the asylum spending by £1.1 billion. But the OBR says if costs stay at current levels, the system could blow a £1.4 billion hole in the budget within 4 years. It comes as small boat arrivals are up 19% and asylum seekers in supported accommodation are up 8% on last year. Several arrests have been made today after farmers drove tractors into central London, defying police restrictions during today's Budget Day protest. The Met Force says officers intervened when agricultural vehicles breached conditions set for the demonstration, warning on social media that anyone bringing machinery into the protest area would be told to leave. The row comes after last October's decision by Rachel Reeves to apply a 20% tax on agricultural properties worth more than £1 million, a move farmers say could wipe out small family-run farms. A man who drove his car into a dense crowd of Liverpool fans during the club's victory parade last May has pleaded guilty to all 31 charges against him. The 54-year-old Paul Doyle admitted dangerous driving, a fray, 17 counts of attempted GBH with intent, 9 counts of causing GBH with intent, and 3 counts of wounding with intent after injuring more than 130 people. Prosecutors called it an act of calculated violence, and the judge told him his lengthy custodial sentence is inevitable, with sentencing set for December. Well, let's take you live now to scenes in Hong Kong, where we now know the death toll from a massive fire that ripped through multiple high-rise residential blocks has risen to 36. More than 700 firefighters are still battling the level 5 blaze, Hong Kong's most serious. The residential block is home to around 4,600 people. Dozens of fire engines are at the scene, and the government has paid tribute to a 37-year-old firefighter who sadly died tackling the flames. At least 279 people are still missing, with fears some may be trapped inside. And breaking tonight, a Georgia judge has thrown out the entire 2020 election interference case against Donald Trump, ending what is his final criminal prosecution, faced over attempts to overturn his loss to Joe Biden. The special prosecutor asked the judge to dismiss the case, dismissing those charges, saying it was in the interest of justice. Trump's lawyer called it the end of political persecution. The decision wipes out all remaining charges against Mr. Trump and his co-defendants, including Rudy Giuliani and former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and closes the last of Trump's 4 criminal cases. That's the news on GB News. A full roundup from me at 8 o'clock. Now, though, it's over to Nigel.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good evening. What a nonsense. I mean, we had leaks and counter-leaks, the hokey-cokey budget, and then, just a few minutes before the Chancellor went live, the OBR published the whole blooming lot. What an absolute shambles. And it was an Alice through the looking glass budget with a heavy dose of socialism. Rachel Reeves says things that patently just aren't true, but perhaps she believes they are. It was anti-business. It was, without any shadow of a doubt, anti-saving, particularly pension saving, in the most enormous way. But hey, if you're on benefits, it's all good. And if you're from Somalia and you've got 10 children, this is the best budget that has ever been produced. Now, I'm going to go into all of this in a lot more detail, but my sort of real takeout on this is, I think a few years ago, we went into the beginnings of an economic doom loop, and I believe we are still there, and that it's going to get worse pretty quickly. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Tweet hashtag Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. Now, let's run you through some of the highlights. Firstly, she confirmed that the income tax threshold would be frozen.
To break the cycle of austerity, we need a fair and a sustainable tax system, one that generates revenues to fund the public services that we all use and supports investment to grow our economy. That does mean that today I am asking everyone to make a contribution. The previous Conservative government froze personal tax thresholds from 2021 to 2028. And today I will maintain all income tax and equivalent national insurance thresholds at their current level for a further 3 years from 2028.
And the mansion tax was confirmed.
I am introducing the high-value council tax surcharge in England, an annual £2,500 charge for properties worth more than £2 million, rising to £7,500 for properties worth more than £5 million. This will be collected alongside council tax, levied on owners, and we will consult on options for support or deferral. This new surcharge will raise over £400 million by 2031 and will be charged on less than the top 1% of properties.
And the two-child cap is to go, as I said earlier, to the benefit of lots and lots of families and hundreds of thousands of foreign-born people. But see how the backbenchers cheer.
We on this side of the House do not believe that the solution to a broken welfare system is to punish the most vulnerable. We are lifting 450,000 children out of poverty with the end of the two-child limit.
And there was some good news on gambling taxes, and Rachel Reeves made it clear that everything that happened in this budget, they were her choices. Well, I wonder about that. I'm joined by Liam Hannigan, Telegraph economist and columnist, and author of When the Facts Change, amongst other things. Did she write that budget?
Difficult to say, Nigel. I think she certainly influenced it, but this was very much a centrally controlled budget. It was very much a number 10 operation. I think, in fairness to her, she did a pretty decent job of delivering it on the day. But it was very much a budget, I think, for Labour MPs, by a Labour MP.
The two-child cap, the cheers were incredible.
Yeah.
When she talked about education, she said, the sort of school I went to, the Tories don't care about. Huge. I mean, that's why I said Alice through the looking glass with a heavy dose of socialism. This was a pretty left-wing budget.
It was a pretty left-wing budget. We had, of course, last year a £40 billion increase in tax, the biggest increase in tax in a single budget for 30 years. She said she wasn't going to come back for more. Yeah. She said she was fixing the foundations. It was once in a generation. And I know the headline figure the OBR are putting out is £26 billion increase in budget. I think it will end up being nearer £30 billion once we've been through all the fine print. So, again, a historically large budget, the second in a row, a big increase in taxation. Why? Because those Labour backbenchers you saw cheering there, they will not countenance any kind of... We're not talking about cuts in welfare spending. We're talking about slowdowns in the rate of increase of welfare spending. They won't countenance those. We saw that over the summer when the Labour backbenchers made fun of the Chancellor and the Prime Minister. They turned a welfare spending reduction bill into a welfare spending increase bill, just so the whole world could see who was in charge, who's running government policy. Of course, the bond markets didn't like that. They immediately put billions of pounds on our debt interest bill because, of course, we borrow so much money each month.
We will talk about debt in the next section in quite some detail. But overall, you know, what was there for business?
There was very little there for business, I thought. There was... When you say Alice through the looking glass, I felt that because she was talking a good game. She sounded like a tech bro. She was sparking enterprise and
entrepreneurs,
risk-taking and all the rest of it. And then, you know, massive inflation-busting increase in the minimum wage coming after another inflation-busting increase in the minimum wage that was announced in April. We all want people to be reasonably well paid, but those above-inflation increases in the minimum wage, they're going to go straight through to consumers. They're going to go straight through to prices in the shops, so they'll just feed inflation and you're bidding up a wage price spiral like we had in the 1970s. There was a great unmentioned in this budget, and the OBR didn't even put it in the numbers, the employment rights bill that's going to take us back to the 70s with huge increases in entitlements to unfair dismissal and so on.
And very bad for small business.
That's coming through. It wasn't included in the budget calculations, unusually, because the OBR have come up with a forecast. It's going to be $5 billion a year. And that also is bad for small business. A lot, I think, that big corporations are going to like, a lot more regulation. But again, it's the small and medium-sized enterprises that employ 2/3 of our people. They did not get a good deal out of this budget. And that's before we even get on to those farmers you mentioned.
No, absolutely. And thinking about it, the one big giveaway is energy. Now, this is the government that promised they'd cut bills by £300. They've gone up by £300. Now they're going to come down by £150. But that's just by taking some of the green subsidies off the electricity bills and putting it into general taxation. So my take on it, see what you think about this. If someone sitting at home now is a pensioner, it's been quite a good day for them because they'll get a reduction in the energy bill and the triple lock is still there. If someone's sitting at home on benefits, it's been a good day, especially if they've got loads of kids. But for anyone working, it's been a terrible day.
I think it has. Even though energy bills are going to come down a little bit, the reality is they're just going to go up by a little bit less than we thought they were going to go up by.
That may be right.
And we still have, Nigel, the most expensive electricity for firms and households among the advanced industrialised world. Now, of course, that's really worrying, particularly for older people, cash-strapped households. They may not put the heating on. And guess what? This is forecast to be quite a cold winter. But the even bigger issue, I would say, for the economy as a whole about energy is business energy costs, particularly manufacturers and others. And those energy costs, they have a very distinct regional pattern because it's in the Midlands, it's in the North East, it's in South Wales, where you've got the manufacturing heartland, where you've got the so-called metal bashing companies. They have sky-high electricity bills. They often don't qualify for any of the assistance schemes unless they're steel makers. And, of course, we've got none of them anymore, pretty much. And so an awful lot of businesses won't be expanding. They won't be taking on more people because of those energy bills on top of the employment rights bill and the other costs.
And the minimum wage and under 18s and all of it. And the reduction, of course, in the cap at which employers start paying national insurance to £5,000.
And look, it's worth just dwelling on that. If you lower where you start paying national insurance at £5,000, you discriminate against part-time workers. You discriminate against the low-paid. And just going back to the main headline measure, freezing the tax thresholds, which the Tories started, this tax threshold freezing gig, which drags another 1 million people into tax in the first place, drags another 800,000 people into the high rate of tax. You know, middle managers, not very senior nurses and police officers, not very senior teachers. They'll all be high rate taxpayers. They weren't meant to be high rate taxpayers at all.
Are we in a doom loop?
I don't
rising taxes, increasing debt?
I don't think she's done anything to break us out of our doom loop. I think the only way we're going to get out of a doom loop, and I say this advisedly and with regret, is we have some kind of crisis that moves the fiscal and the political needle, or someone comes in, probably not a Labour government, I don't think they've got it in them, and says, you know what? We're going to lower the rate of corporation tax for small businesses, and then next year we're going to lower the rate of the corporation tax for big businesses. You know what? We're going to raise the VAT threshold.
Yeah.
So small traders don't stop trading in January. They actually
Yeah.
carry on to April, so they don't pop the VAT threshold.
Yeah.
You need to do big, bold things, and you need to basically push away a lot of the public sector advice you're getting, because we're at a point, Nigel, where the tax is so high that higher tax rates could well bring in less tax revenue. We're beyond the Laffer curve.
We had Laffer on the show the other week.
I know you did.
We did.
It's a Laffer minute.
Very good, very good. In the next segment, we'll go through the numbers, the graphs, to give you a better feel for what all this really, really means in terms of the macro picture. But for now, I haven't done a Farage at Large for a long, long time. I've been rather busy doing other things. But we've got a Christmas special on Thursday, the 18th of December. It'll be a live show from 7 to 8. It'll take place in Chelmsford. And it's going to be the biggest audience, the biggest show we've ever put on. So scan the QR code on your screen right now. Get yourself a ticket. We'll keep it up on the screen throughout the rest of the show. Alternatively, you can go to the GB News website. In a moment, budget, big picture.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some audience reaction. I asked you, are we in a doom loop? Paul says, if this isn't a doom loop, I dread to think what a doom loop really is. Surely this time next year, we'll be having the same conversation. As the government hikes taxes again, I suspect that's right, and debt will be even bigger. Claire says, I don't think we're quite at the point of a doom loop, but I do think we should cut them some slack because of a terrible legacy left by the Tories. Well, yes, very, very fair point. Right, let's... they're laughing already that John McTernan, former Blair advisor, and Kwasi Kwarteng, former Chancellor... yeah, listen, Queensberry rules, all right? Behave. Let's show you just some graphs of the big picture first. This was the growth downgrade. Now, they've upgraded growth for this year for reasons that Liam will explain. For the rest of the years, it's down. That's negative. 10-year gilts. Let's have a look at this. Now, the market today didn't do anything crazy, but bear in mind, they're above the level where Truss and Kwarteng were in desperate trouble a couple of years ago. Debt as a share of GDP. Now, have a look at this. You go back to 2007, it was about 35%. It's now heading up very, very close to 100%. Basically, as a share of our national wealth, our national debt has tripled in less than 20 years. And how about this? Tax as a share of GDP. You see, where we start after the war, we're in massive, massive debt. And what you can see in the last decade and more, but accelerating even faster under Labour, is we're all paying more tax. In fact, it will be about 38% of total GDP will be tax, the highest it's ever been in the history of this country. I wonder, Kwasi, what you make of those macro numbers, and particularly of debt. I tell you what, first, I'll show you this, because this really upset me. Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer today said they're cutting debt. Have a look.
Today's budget builds on the choices that we have made since July last year. To cut NHS waiting lists, to cut the cost of living, and to cut debt and borrowing.
To cut debt, the estimated figures for debt for the last year were 117 billion. They've come in at 138. She's just not telling the truth.
That's not the truth. And I don't know who's feeding those lines.
But Starmer was saying it as well.
I don't know who's feeding them those lines, but those aren't the accurate. That isn't the accurate picture. And what you saw today, you mentioned the word, the S word, socialism. That's what this is about. And the other thing you looked at was the clip of the Labour MPs waving the order paper when they got rid of the two-child cap. I remember when we introduced that in 2011. That was one of the most popular policies that we introduced in the Conservative the 14 years we had, saying that if you have more than two children, you're going to have to pay for them. Why should the taxpayer have to pay for that? And they've reversed that for political reasons, obviously. And it seems to me that the backbench tail is wagging the government.
It does feel a bit that way, John, doesn't it? That the backbenchers are really in charge of all this.
No, it's absolutely wrong that children should be pushed into poverty. The purpose of the state, the purpose of the welfare state, is to protect children. They're the most vulnerable. They should be protected. It's not their fault that the factory closes and their mum is put on the dole, and that then the family have been a prosperous family, and the kids then have to suffer. You should protect children from poverty. You should protect children with childcare. Should the British taxpayer fund... It's an investment in our future.
A Somalian couple who were unemployed with 10 kids. I mean, they've had a very good day. And 340,000 people who are foreign-born benefit from this.
You know as well as I do that one of the challenges that the country has at the moment is that birth rates are falling. We actually do need a younger generation to have the next generation. I'm going to need them. You're going to need them.
But there's no cap at all. I mean, there should be individual responsibility.
While we discuss the two-child cap, and it's a huge political issue because of what happened under the Conservatives and what's happened now. But Liam, actually, in terms of the overall benefits bill, the two-child cap being lifted is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
It's tiny. It's totemic. It's symbolic. And for let's be fair, for your party too, Nigel. So so Labour have scrapped the two-child cap. The Tories want to bring it back, not least because polling shows it's popular to have the two-child cap in place, because a lot of people that work feel that they have to make trade-offs about, do we have another kid or don't we? Can we afford it? Whereas if you're on universal credit, this is what it's about. If you're on universal credit, you then get uncapped. You can get child benefit all the way up, and a lot of people don't like that. And so your party, you're saying that you want to keep the two-child cap.
For working couples.
There you go. But then you've slightly tempered it by saying if you're in work, you can keep it. And also, I think if you're a British citizen, have you said that
Our proposal would cost 300 million.
Yeah.
This proposal costs 3 billion.
Yeah.
So there is but look, sometimes in politics, nuanced debates are difficult to get across.
They're difficult, and that's why I'm taking this moment to just
sure. No, thank you.
iron out the nuances. But you're right, it's a small amount of money, but it's very symbolic.
Claimants are pensioners. I mean, when the large, they get the housing benefit, they get the winter fuel payment, they get the triple lock, the protection that pensioners get, say, compared to students paying more and more for the student debt. There's quite a big challenge between the generations.
But the logic, where do we go? I mean, the triple lock is now giving pension increases above the average rate of inflation.
I think we have to find, at some level, we need to have a bipartisan consensus, and that would be between the Labour Party and the Party of Opposition Reform. We have to have a bipartisan agreement.
It was going so well.
About an adequacy level.
Yeah.
Is there a level to which the state pension gets? There's a good guarantee, and that then you keep it at that level in real terms. So you don't have to have the triple lock. You have a copper bottom guarantee. It'll stay at this proportion.
There'll be a lot of people quasi watching this now who are on pensions, and they'll feel very protected.
That's right.
By the triple lock. And it was designed to do that.
That's right.
But is it realistic for the long term?
I think it's difficult to sustain, but the logic of that is that the vast majority of pensioners have put money into the pot. And that's why I think it's a different argument about the benefits. I think they're two different things. I mean, if someone at the end of 35 years or 40 years of working life gets a pension and that's protected, I think that's fair enough. How we protect it, that's a subject of debate. But I think with this benefits issue, where people who've never done a day's work in their lives, they're getting an uplift in benefits, they can have kids, not just two, they can have multiple kids, and that's all being paid for. I think in this circumstance, that will be very unpopular.
Now, let's talk a bit about working people. One of the things that people who are self-employed, even those working for bigger companies, can do every year is put money, they can top up a pension, they can do it into a company scheme, or many put it into a self-invested pension plan, as I did through all my years of self-employment. I mean, Gordon Brown famously hit the pensions market massively way back in the 1990s. Just explain what's happened today.
Crikey, I was on the FT when that Gordon Brown change came in. It wasn't in the speech, it was buried in the documents.
I know. And it had a huge impact.
It had a huge impact and was the beginning of the end of defined benefit final salary pension schemes in the private sector. Of course, you still have them in the public sector. What's happened today is that the Chancellor has clamped down, in her view, on something called salary sacrifice. The way it works at the moment is you can put up to 20 grand into a pension before you're taxed. And what a lot of people are doing, particularly people in financial services, it must be said, but other young, striving people, talented people working mainly in London and the South East, it must be said, who've got to 100 grand. After 100 grand, because under a Tory-instigated, I'm trying to be even-handed here. As you go up above 100 grand, you start to lose your personal tax allowances, 12.5 grand at the other end. So you end up paying a marginal rate of tax between 100 and 125 grand of 60, or as you approach 125, even 70%. So people were putting, if they were high rollers, they were putting that money into a pension, which is great. They're not going to become wards of the state. They're going to look after themselves and their family. That cap has now gone from 20,000 you could salary sacrifice each year to 2,000, which strikes me as pretty politically spiteful.
Leo, whilst you're right about the high earners in Canary Wharf, equally, there are people out there who are self-employed,
indeed,
running small businesses,
indeed,
and they're not earning much money.
Exactly right.
And for them,
that is massive.
To put money into their security. John, this is cruel. This is cruel. Against the self-employed, this is very cruel.
I think that Leo is right, that all these little changes that you have to pensions can have a massive knock-on impact. I think that we need tax reform to even out what happens to earners over 100,000. I think that the cap, the lifetime cap on pensions is now too low compared to what you can earn during your lifetime and how you should want to save into it. I think that this is another example of tinkering. I can see the attempt to stop employers avoiding employers' national insurance. I think that's the intention for big employers who do salary sacrifice. But it is, it's concerned a lot. My colleagues at work.
That is a fair point
because we have a salary sacrifice scheme at work. We need to know
with the big firms. John, there's no question that deals are done, and it's but what about the little guy?
I think this is a very bad budget for small business. I mean, when I was an MP, I represented a constituency which was dominated by small business people. And, the FSB, the Federation for Small Business, these were people I spoke to all the time. And their reaction to this has been very interesting. They feel that they're being picked on. higher taxes on dividends. So if you've got shares, you're paying more tax. The self-sacrifice that you've, the salary sacrifice that you've mentioned. There are other issues in terms of freezing the thresholds, which has a huge impact. We did that stuff.
On top of minimum wage increases, employer and IC.
So if you're run a small printing business, let's say in my old constituency in Spelthorne, and you employ 6 or 7 people, and you're earning maybe 100, 110 grand a year, this has been a very bad budget.
Yeah, it certainly has. In a moment, we will discuss the exodus. Yes, that's what I'm calling it. Huge numbers of people leaving the country. It's not just the non-doms. It's not just the super rich. It's also young, talented, ambitious people. And my feeling is today we'll see even more people flee. We'll see in a moment whether the panel agree.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Sunny skies for much of Spain on Thursday. Not particularly warm, however. More wet weather to come for parts of Italy and some warm winds blowing across the Greek islands. Reasonably warm in the Canary Islands with a chance of 1 or 2 showers. Fine and sunny, as I said, over most of Spain, but it is on the cool side here. Cold winds bringing plenty of showers to Sardinia and Sicily. Some heavy rain heading to Athens, but the Greek islands further east staying dry and sunny. Santorini, though, seeing showers this weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A frost-free night to come, but it will remain overcast and drizzly throughout the next few days. The winds will also start to pick up. That's because of this area of low pressure out in the Atlantic. Ahead of that, a series of weather front will bring thicker cloud and some spells of wet weather, and that rain will push into southeastern areas through this evening. It will be relatively light, but it's going to turn quite damp wherever you are. We'll continue to see further pulses of rain moving in from the west. This could turn heavy across parts of Scotland as well as northwestern England, but as I said, it's going to be a much milder night tonight. An early minimum across the southeast, temperatures closer to double digits to start the day here. Now looking further north and west, this is where the winds will start to pick up throughout Thursday. So temperatures around 11 or 12 degrees across the Western Isles and the Highlands, but a brisk southerly wind will make it feel a little bit chillier than that. And there's going to be a lot of cloud around, some wet weather too, particularly over high ground, western facing hills in particular. The high ground of Wales also seeing some drizzly outbreaks of rain through Thursday. Southeastern areas should remain largely dry through the day, but there's going to be very little in the way of sunshine, and it is going to be a breezy day. In fact, quite a windy day across western coast, particularly northwestern areas of Scotland. Now, there will be some sunshine poking out by the end of the day across Northern Ireland and the far northwest of Scotland, so we'll feel a little bit better here, but here is where the strongest winds are, and there could be some blustery showers too. And we do have a wind warning in force through Thursday night into Friday lunchtime. Gusts in excess of 75 miles per hour are possible across Western Isles on Friday morning. And we'll see some heavy pulses of rain across parts of Wales into southeastern areas. That rain could linger into the weekend. There is some uncertainty on that, but wherever you are, it is expected to get colder once again throughout the weekend. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Just under 20 minutes ago, I told you that on the 18th of December, I'll be doing a Farage at Large live in Chelmsford. Already, 200 tickets have gone already in less than 20 minutes. So go to gbnews.com or scan the QR code on your screen if you want to come along. It'll be a fun evening and tickets are going like hotcakes. Now, my take on it is that the exodus that is happening is a disaster. I do blame, actually, Jeremy Hunt, a former Chancellor, very much indeed, cracking down on non-doms, and, of course, Rachel Reeves took it further. But, of course, everybody hates billionaires, unless, of course, you're employed by them, or they spend their money in your shop. And actually, they were paying their share of UK taxes. But it's not just that. Many of the rich are fleeing. They fear vindictive, retrospective taxation from this government, but also the young 30-somethings, those that are really entrepreneurial and want to work. And people are out there, they want them. Dubai wants them. Milan wants them. Lisbon wants them. And now even Athens is in the bidding for young British talent. Will this budget lead to a further exodus? I believe it will. You see, whenever Labour are in power, John McTernan, as it was back in the 1970s when we had the brain drain, this is the modern-day brain drain. And Peter Kyle has actually admitted this. The Business Secretary has admitted we're losing talent. And I think today we'll send more people abroad.
So the Business Secretary is also intent on bringing to Britain many of the scientists who've been driven out by your friend Donald Trump. People are finding it harder to work, hard to get funding for their science who've had. So I think there's a number.
You can't get money in America for science. You won't find it here.
You will. There's a great sector here.
All right, okay, so half a dozen are coming. Fine. All right.
But to me, as somebody who worked in Australia, went there and came back, I'm willing to defend people leaving our country, going and working in other countries, and coming back, because Britain needs to be not just a great place to be, a great place to be from, but a great place to come back to. If people don't travel, they don't make connections. Don't make connections. You don't have full note.
But it's not. You paint a very rosy, rose-tinted. I mean, look. The reality is, they're not leaving here because they want to come back. They're leaving here because they feel that the conditions. No, that's a very rose-tinted view of looking at things. The reason they're leaving is they think there are high taxes. There's an out-of-control spending system. They don't have the incentives to work or to invest. And they feel they have better opportunities and will be taxed less elsewhere. That's the reality.
The retrospective bit, the pension that I saved for, as of last year's budget, is now subject to inheritance tax.
Exactly.
I didn't know that when I put the money aside.
That's right. And
Liam, I've witnessed this. I'm from a big London Irish family, as you know, Nigel. Yeah, everyone in my family. They were in the trades, chippies, carpenters. They weren't scientists. They weren't, political advisors, all the rest of it. They were normal, talented, highly skilled, hard-working, blue-collar people who were determined to make a good life for themselves. They went to, in serious numbers, Australia, America, Canada, New Zealand. Did they come back? No. That's great for my kids who are also thinking of leaving the country, and they're not chippies and electricians, they're highly educated university kids. It's great for them. They got cousins all over the Anglosphere, right? But it was terrible. And it happened just after the IMF crash. Countless members of my family left the UK after the IMF crash in 76.
I think it's great for those countries to have such strong links with the UK. I think it would be greater for our country.
Yeah, our tax base.
It's great for our country if we could actually have a proper free trade agreement with Australia and New Zealand.
If our skilled high taxpayers leave and are replaced by very low-skilled migrants who pay virtually no tax at all.
And they get benefits.
And they get benefits. Our tax take is down. It's bad for the economy.
Well, the economy is going to grow. The key to the budget, and we've not touched on it at all in our conversation yet, the key to this budget is productivity. Can the productivity, the public sector and the private sector, be cracked? If we don't crack the productivity, it doesn't really matter. If we don't get that thing right, that's been a thing which governments of both complexions
have
struggled over. I know that your think tank will be struggling over. How do we actually get this to work?
John's point is correct. Am I right to say that the mass importation by the million of unskilled labour has driven down productivity?
I think it has, but other things have done so as well. I mean, we went through a whole financial crisis where essentially the bank, the government was supporting businesses that weren't actually very productive.
Yeah.
In many instances. There was also, we had the COVID incident where we spent, I mean, people forget this, but during COVID, the public spending went through the roof. I mean, I remember, we'd have debates in 2018, which was 7 years ago, feels like a million years ago. about maybe we'll spend 80 billion across the Parliament. That's a huge amount of money. In 1 year with COVID, it was 300 billion pounds just spent. And all of that...
And in 2 years, we printed 450 billion.
That's right.
So quantitative easing.
But in the US, they had creative destruction. They allowed companies to go bankrupt.
They did.
And their economy is in better shape.
Which we should have done.
On the productivity point, something that wasn't mentioned, and I doubt it would be mentioned, it certainly wasn't mentioned in the budget speech. So private sector, 80% of the economy, their productivity has been quite flat over the last few years. It should be going up. OBR had been assuming it would go up by 1.5%, 2%. They're now assuming less. That's slightly put Rachel Reeves in the hole. But public sector productivity has plunged. What does that mean? It means we're paying much, much more. It means we've got a third more civil servants than in 2016. It means the NHS has had huge amounts of money, but we're getting less operations, we're getting worse outcomes in terms of oncology, strokes, heart disease. Public sector productivity is difficult to measure, but all the measures, academic and government, show plunging public sector productivity. It's plunging so much that even though it's only 20% of the economy, it's pulling down the entire number.
Well,
that's a big problem.
Jacob will be on later. I mean, Jacob and I ran the same department. I mean, he for a shorter time than I did, but, the
Get that in.
But, we
Says the long-serving Chancellor.
Got him. Touche.
Or touchy.
But the point I was trying to make is that we had this debate within government. People would say, OK, we want to work 2 days a week in the office. And it was a struggle often trying to get people to do that. Some people were saying, well, I want to work 1 day a week. What, at home? No, in the office. And this is a sort of culture.
Public sector culture. Other people's money. You're giving away other people's money.
Massive problem.
Yeah.
Well, you know how it goes with the middle classes and the public sector. We can work from home. We're so much more productive at home, darling. I don't believe a word. Now, why do budgets matter? They matter because they have impacts on people's real lives. Last year, Rachel Reeves announced an inheritance tax of 20% on family farms and small family-run businesses. That community have been absolutely horrified by it, living in terror. Today they came to London and they were given a very, very rough ride by the police.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on a BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Farmers had planned a budget day protest that had been planned for a long, long time. Then, literally at the 11th hour, the Metropolitan Police told them they couldn't go ahead. Well, a few hundred of them still did go ahead, leading to some arrests and threats of their tractors being lifted and taken away on low loaders. But there was also some pretty rough language going on between police and the farmers. Colin Rayner is a farmer from Berkshire, arable and livestock, and he was part of it today. Colin, there was real anger amongst the farming community in London today, wasn't there?
At times, we'd been planning this for months and months and months. We had permission from the Metropolitan Police. They told us at 3:30 yesterday afternoon that the event had to be cancelled. Farmers were already travelling from Devon, Somerset, Wales, Yorkshire, Lincolnshire. And we all sat down that evening last night and said, what are we going to do? And we woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning and said, we've got to go to London. We've got to get our politicians to hear this awful law that they've introduced. And we went to London. We didn't want any trouble. We didn't want any incidents. And we thought we'd just drive up to London, drive around Westminster, make sure that we obeyed the law. So I led 100 tractors from our farm in Berkshire, the Rayner family farm.
Yeah.
We left about 6 o'clock. We went up in convoy. We were welcomed into London by people cheering from their shops. Some people came out in their pyjamas and clapped us. We were heartwarming. And when we arrived at Trafalgar Square, the Thames Valley, the Metropolitan Police said, oh, Mr. Rayner, you need to park here, which quite shocked us. He said, you then got to walk to the protest area. So we parked on double yellow lines in Trafalgar Square, and it was total chaos because they'd cancelled it. If we'd gone into Whitehall, there wouldn't have been a problem. And of course, they arrested one farmer last night for parking his tractor and blowing his horn and handcuffed him.
Colin, thank you for your testimony. Well, Rachel Reeves is unrepentant. In fact, she said this in the House of Commons today about the farm tax.
The reforms I made last year will raise an additional £8 billion a year by 2020-30 from wealth. I increased taxes last year on private equity, private schools and private jets. I reformed inheritance tax on agricultural and business assets. And this year...
So basically, Labour want to close down all the family farms and they want a big American private equity firm to come up the whole of the British countryside. Have I got that wrong?
I think this is an outrageous measure to attack family farms in this way. I do agree that there are some people using land as an inheritance tax dodge.
So set a cap on it.
What I would do, I've written about this in some detail, to get the agricultural property relief that keeps a farm together, you have to demonstrate 20 years active involvement in farming. That stops city spivs pretending to be farmers. So we can do that. The other thing about small businesses that we didn't mention that's closely linked to the family farm measures is a much broader thing. The farmers have got most of the publicity. I don't begrudge them that for one second. And why would you cancel a protest? If you're driving a tractor from Devon, you started last week. I know. Come on. And people have to pay people to look after their livestock. It's crazy.
No, it's rotten.
But there's another thing linked to this. That's the changing the rules. So if you bequeath a business, a family business, right, then you get you have to pay,
and which in some cases
huge amounts of money.
In some cases, 150 years old, 200 years old.
That's right.
That's going to lead to the close down of lots of businesses, Nigel, in towns around the country.
I know, small
and they
town.
will be taken up by private equity.
Small town Britain.
Assets stripped, closed down, less competition, less employment, less tax. It's a moronic policy by Rachel Reeves, and I don't often use that word.
No, you don't. Strong stuff. John, you seemed very unsympathetic to the farmers last time we discussed this.
Yeah, and...
you thought they should be treated rather like the Tories treated the miners. Do you remember?
I regret what I said, and I've apologised for it. And I apologise
Well, good for you.
for it.
Good for you.
And I would say, I think it's a really good policy suggestion from Liam to have that kind of rule to connect the farm and the farming to...
With the property relief.
The
tax relief.
And also, I totally agree with his more socialist rant about private equity. I, too, would take up arms with him against private equity.
Well, there we are. You see, we can agree on something.
And I think it's really important.
I like competition.
And it's really important for... it's the competition, but it's also the lifeblood of towns. There's towns in rural Scotland which have had capital extracted from them in all kinds of ways. And this is the last heart of enterprise.
Just before
family business, they need some
we
protection
close
too.
this debate, I mean, the reason why she's sort of she's gone after these sections of the population is that they wrote this promise that they wouldn't increase VAT, income tax, or national insurance on employees, and that's really boxed them in because they've got to raise the money. And that's why they've gone after and it's politically, I think it's disastrous.
They're boxed in financially. They're also boxed in ideologically.
That's right.
I think there's a bit of class war going on because they think farmers are Tory voters. They're not going to vote Labour anyway. Let's take them out.
If you look at the polls, you've got Labour on 18% roughly, and you've got the Greens on about 17%. And they have got a left-wing split. And in order to win the have a chance of winning, they've got to get those left-wing voters behind them.
Well,
and
you
that's
know what?
A lot of the dynamics.
But there is a cost to this. There's a cost potentially to small towns, as you both mentioned, with private companies, private businesses. But there's also, folks, not just the human cost to farmers, and I was with a group of Welsh farmers on Monday, some of them in great distress. There's also, actually, be a cost to our countryside, which has been maintained beautifully by these people for centuries. Now, Jacob Rees-Mogg is up next with State of the Nation. Jacob, I guess you must be discussing the budget too.
Well, as you came to me, I was reading the OBR's report, which always has fascinating detail in it that sometimes gets lost on the first day. But it's the shambles, the absolute chaos of this budget that is so extraordinary, with the OBR telling everybody what was happening just before it was meant to be announced by the Chancellor. What was the point of the Chancellor, frankly, when everyone had heard what was happening? And think of Dalton. Dalton had to resign because he just mentioned something in passing to the Evening Standard. This whole budget was leaked, and it seems as if nobody cares. This general chaos, this laziness about how you provide information, and I'm afraid the incompetence of the economic planning, which is extraordinarily bad for our economy. Little decisions that just make life worse for people and will make the economy work less well.
Jacob, thank you. I want to thank Kwasi, I want to thank John, especially want to thank Liam for coming in. Just give us 30-second sum up of the day.
I think when future historians look back, they'll look at these two budgets together as a time when, rather than really grappling with the fiscal reality that we face, the majority of the British political and media class flunked it. We need to live broadly within our means. The world is watching. We had gold standard levels of economic management. We've lost those. And in that sense, it undermines our whole economy.
It does. Well, that's over and out from me. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A frost-free night to come, but it will remain overcast and drizzly throughout the next few days. The winds will also start to pick up. That's because of this area of low pressure out in the Atlantic. Ahead of that, a series of weather front will bring thicker cloud and some spells of wet weather, and that rain will push into southeastern areas through this evening. It will be relatively light, but it's going to turn quite damp wherever you are. We'll continue to see further pulses Masses of rain moving in from the west. This could turn heavy across parts of Scotland as well as northwestern England, but as I said, it's going to be a much milder night tonight. An early minimum across the southeast, temperatures closer to double digits to start the day here. Now looking further north and west, this is where the winds will start to pick up throughout Thursday. So temperatures around 11 or 12 degrees across the Western Isles and the Highlands, but a brisk southerly wind will make it feel a little bit chillier than that. And there's going to be a lot of cloud around, some wet weather too, particularly over high ground, western facing hills in particular. The high ground of Wales also seeing some drizzly outbreaks of rain through Thursday. Southeastern areas should remain largely dry through the day, but there's going to be very little in the way of sunshine, and it is going to be a breezy day. In fact, quite a windy day across western coast, particularly northwestern areas of Scotland. Now, there will be some sunshine poking out by the end of the day across Northern Ireland and the far northwest of Scotland. So